Welcome to The Forecast, a podcast by Rain the Growth Agency. I'm your host, Morgan Willis. Today, I'm joined by Kaila Vallee, Executive Vice President of Rainstorm Direct. Kaila has over 17 years of strategic marketing, direct sales, and product lifecycle experience, and has overseen cross-channel marketing campaigns for several top retailers and brands. In our discussion today, we'll be chatting about Rainstorm's recent rebrand, how linear TV media buying is evolving, and what she sees for the future of TV. Kaila, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Morgan. Excited to be here.
Excited to have you on. So, Kaila, Rainstorm Direct recently rebranded this year. Can you tell me why you decided to rebrand?
Let's just say the Rainstorm rebrand was well overdue. When I started with the agency 12 years ago, we talked about rebranding back then, but why fix what is not broken? Rebranding, when you have such a legacy and so much experience, can be a very daunting task. This is our 40th year in the industry, and frankly, that's unheard of in the media world these days. Those years just speak to all of our experience and our relationships in the marketplace. Over the course of our history, there isn't one vertical or one demo that we don't have experience in. All of that experience is so invaluable. And top that with our media relationships and our tenured teams, not many agencies can say that. It was time to show who we are and what we do and not come across as this, old-fashioned linear-only agency. And I always say it was easier to name my children than it was to go through a whole rebrand because, it's a lot of work and there's a lot of steps and you come across with that right brand essence was really key and very important to us. And that's really what sets us apart is our history. Couple that with our experience and our team, not losing sight of all of those learnings, but applying them to tactics for the future. Our guarantee program is also what sets us apart. We can guarantee an outcome. There's not many things in this world that are guaranteed. And when we talk about this with clients or prospective clients, and we talk about how, everything we do is based on an outcome, we can track that if it's a visit, a download, a sale, a lead, an order, we can guarantee those outcomes for our clients, which is a huge bonus. And it adds a layer of efficiency to all client campaigns. So those are, some of the many reasons why it was time for a rebrand.
So you mentioned that, everything that you do at Rainstorm is tied back to performance and a performance guarantee. Do other agencies not have that?
I would say the guarantee offering that we offer is something that differentiates us against all other agencies, to be able to take out that risk factor and not pay for just the media or the CPM, if it's video, if it's linear or CTV, to be able to only pay if a lead is generated, if a CPM is met, if an order is driven. It takes out all of that risk for our clients. And there's not many things these days that is, risk-free, especially in the media world and how much it's evolving. And we can do that across linear and across CTV. And so that's something that really does set us apart is that guaranteed offering.
It seems like there's sort of a narrative in the advertising industry right now that CTV and OTT streaming are taking over linear TV and that linear TV is dying out. Are you worried at all about viewership dying out on linear TV?
Yeah, so great question. And it's probably one of the most talked about questions or written in the most in the trades these days. TV's not dying, it's evolving. It's no secret that CTV ad spending will surpass traditional TV in, the next few years, if not sooner, and definitely has the most growth potential. Advertisers are shifting their budgets from linear to CTV. All of our advertisers, all of our clients will increase their CTV budgets by next year. And it's important for advertisers to lean into CTV to hit new audiences. Linear has dropped over 28% over the past 12 years. But it's also important to note that linear still commands the majority of all global TV ad spending. It's also the biggest mass reach vehicle, and its potential to generate actions is still stronger than CTV. On that note, linear and CTV should not compete against each other. They should really complement one another. And that's why everything we do, how we plan, how we buy, how we optimize, it's looking at, a holistic video plan, together. Even with linear's decline, there are still demos that are watching TV. News and live sports are very important and still mainly watched on, linear TV. And it's a very competitive marketplace. CPMs are holding strong. Linear CPMs on average are up 10% year over year. We have seen that gap sort of narrow just over the past few months. And CTV CPMs are coming down as well. So the way that we operate in a successful strategy will leverage both linear and CTV together. CTV for its targeting capabilities, its new audiences that it attracts, and for linear's mass reach. So they really do complement one another.
It sounds like from what you're saying, rather than thinking about CTV or linear TV, brands should be thinking about linear and CTV, putting them together. Linear is better for certain demos. It's better for certain types of content. You mentioned news and sports, which really haven't come into CTV just yet. I know sports is starting to be more and more on CTV, but especially news is very heavily linear. So yeah, maybe rather than thinking of versus, they should be thinking of and when looking at both of those.
Absolutely. It's important to look at a converged media plan together. So the way that we plan and optimize and buy is by complementing one another and putting them together.
Rainstorm Direct has been around, you mentioned, for 40 years, which is really unheard of in the advertising world. That is a very long time to have been around. How have you seen linear media buying evolve in that 4 years?
Good question. It's all about the technology and the speed to market, and the advancements, like we talked a little bit about before, are what's changing the game, and the optimizations and the speed. What used to take weeks to research the target audience, to review competitive, to compile the rates and put together the strategy can now all be done at the push of a button, at least with our technology that we've spent a lot of time and money investing in to be on the forefront of, the evolution of how media is bought and optimized. Measurement is also evolving. We can still leverage, direct attribution to a certain extent. So taking all of those learnings from the past 40 years and applying them to some campaigns, whether those are toll-free numbers or text codes or, how did you hear about us surveys or post-checkout surveys. It's, applying those to measure linear TV, but also applying them to CTV. Nowadays, to get actionable, accurate insights and maximize results across all channels, most of our clients are looking at or using cross-channel platform tools such as an iSpot or an Innovid, and advanced analytic tools such as MMMs. We can't solely look at the results of video and not see the impact across other channels. So I would say, the technology of how planning and buying and across different publishers and platforms, whether that's direct IO or programmatically, it's the technology and the measurement that we see the most advancement. I see the most advancement over the past few years.
You mentioned attribution, iSpot, for example. You can measure across channels, CTV, linear, etc. Would you say that's the biggest change that you've seen in those 40 years?
Yes. So being able to measure holistically the campaign, you can't just look at, how is TV performing, or how is CTV performing, or how is your paid search performing, or how is YouTube performing, using those cross-platform tools to measure and to look at, the overall results for our clients and for clients is so important.
There's that famous old quote. I don't remember who said it, but it goes something like, I know that 50% of my ads on TV are working. I just don't know which 50%. But it sounds like we've largely solved for that issue. And with these new attribution tools, we really are able to see which ads are working and which ads are not on TV.
Trying. It's definitely, been a challenge over the past couple of years. And, I would say that we've seen the most advancement and our clients seen the most success when we measure results. Obviously the old form of direct attribution and being able to match back, this spot aired on this time on this station and looking at that last touch attribution, it does get a little muddier as there are more channels in play and clients diversify their strategies. But there's definitely been, a huge closing of the gap between the measurement challenges that we saw many years ago versus today. And a lot of them are using, those tools that we've talked about, like MMMs, just to look across all channels and, make sure they haven't hit saturation points and make sure that they're still seeing their overall ROI return.
As I'm sure you know, the industry buzzword these days is, of course, AI. Everybody's talking about AI, how it's changing the industry, how it's helping media buyers. Have you seen AI come into play at all for linear TV in recent years?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, AI is the future. We need to embrace it. Our clients need to embrace it. We see it in creative when we look at content. We see it even in some of our tools. So, we don't just use AI. There's still that human element that's very important. So taking all of those years of experience and the relationship piece, especially, from a media perspective, but AI is the future. And, we see our clients leaning into it more. We see the industry leaning into it more. The way that we optimize, being able to put in a client's KPI and being able to, hit a button and being able to look at, what media plan is the most effective for that to hit that target KPI, that is the future. And that's all the advancements that we have invested in over the past few years.
Let's talk a little bit about you. What are some of the reasons why the marketing industry has always been a draw for you?
Yeah. When I started my career, or even further back, like looking back into school, I've always loved to follow trends and love to follow up and coming brands. There's something so rewarding sitting in a client's office and being able to dig in, being able to problem solve with them, just, helping them get from a startup, an unknown brand to having them be, a household name and in every major retailer across the country. It's so rewarding. And I love, even to this day, at the end of the night, sitting on the couch with my children watching TV and, a commercial will come on and they'll say, "Hey, mom, is that yours?" Or, "Mom, do you work with that brand?" There's no better feeling. It's not for everybody. As no 2 days are alike. And it's, a very challenging environment. The marketplace, especially this particular year has been challenging, but I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. And it's so rewarding just to see our growth and to be with a client from start to finish and just seeing the immediacy of, watching that spot on, our TV or on, any device and then being able to track and measure the response. It's just a full circle moment. It's very exciting.
Do you have a particularly memorable, campaign or brand that you've worked with over the last 40 years or the time that you've been at Rainstorm Direct?
Yeah, a brand that comes to mind that we still work with to this day, and we've had, has been a client for a very long time, was sort of what we were just talking about. They were a startup and they had an idea, and it was tapping into a market that was new. Consumers didn't know a lot about it. They had no market share. They had no retail presence. And it took some time and it took some investment and some patience, but now they are in every major retailer and, they are they spend significant across, linear and CTV, and they're a household name. It's so exciting and rewarding for those clients.
Kaila, I'd love to know what your forecast is for the future of linear TV. Rainstorm Direct has been around for 40 years, so let's give it another decade. What do you think linear TV is going to look like at the 50-year mark in 10 years for Rainstorm Direct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So my forecast for the future of video is, CTV will continue to grow and own the market share, surpass linear. There's no secret with that. It will surpass global ad spending in the next few years. Everything will be hyper personalized and interactive, all driven by AI. AI is the future. We see it in everything we do. We embrace it. Our clients embrace it. Ad-supported models will become universal. We'll see more interactive creative ad formats, shoppable ads, the continued race for the best creative content, because we all know content is king. And probably more mergers and consolidations across streaming platforms. And as a consumer myself, I'm all for that. Just this morning, I was watching the local news, and they were talking about the Disney Plus is going to be taking an increase, a cost increase over the next month. And, survey of 100 here, local survey from Rhode Island, I joke, but they were asking viewers, how many paid subscriptions do you subscribe to right now? And 39% subscribe to 4 or plus more. And I'm not sure how sustainable that is for the future. I mean, even myself, it's a challenge. It's all based on content. But when I look back at the past, 20 years and just see the evolution of the industry and the shift from linear to CTV and YouTube, it's been very exciting, and it will continue to shift. And, I'm along for the ride.
On the point of there being so many streaming services out there, I remember when I was growing up, there was really just Netflix and Hulu and, maybe a few other smaller ones at first. And now there are, as you mentioned, so many. A lot of people have 4 or more streaming services. It almost seems like we've gone through this period of fragmentation, and now things are starting to consolidate a little bit, almost, kind of how linear TV did long ago.
Yeah, agree. And I think it will continue to happen just because, as we mentioned, as a consumer, I don't know how sustainable it is. I don't know, having all of these paid subscriptions, and it's I don't know how long that will last for.
Kaila, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks so much.
The Forecast is powered by Rain the Growth Agency, a leading independent advertising agency. I'm your host, Morgan Willis. Art design is by Eric Hernandez, production by Beatrice Livioco. The show is edited by Morgan Willis and Eric Hernandez. Follow along with the show on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you enjoy listening to stay in the loop. We'll see you next time.